Well, there was a pretty nasty decision called the Abbott Labs case that says that pharmaceutical reps, those individuals that go visit the physicians, those are hourly employees. They are not in any way under the administrative exemption. That means that all those hours that they were spending trying to wine and dine the physicians and all of that, that should have been treated as an hourly. Very careful what you're looking at in the sense of your job descriptions as well. How are you defining your positions? We're dealing with focusing on the businesses, focusing on the growing of the businesses, and now maybe you had a manager that is also working at the cash register half of his time because you've given them more tasks. Giving more tasks doesn't necessarily mean that somehow they continue being a manager. You have to be very careful. How many of us actually have a job description? You have a job description, but think about it. There are not a lot of people in small companies that take the time to actually define what the job is. Well, they know what they're doing. They know they're a manager. They're getting close to $600 an hour. They're a manager. They fall within the exception. Not necessarily. I'll give you another example. I come into the taqueria, and there is an issue within food distribution, retail, and as well as restaurant chains, which are a prime target. These are the at-risk industries that the Department of Labor, from directives from Washington, are targeting. In the past month, we have seen between 10 and 12 audits that just walk in and ask for this information. But I'll give you an example that is a big concern. Person is a taquero, prepares it's a short order cook, and he gets $600 a week. That makes no sense. It makes absolute sense. Sometimes within the immigrant community, you will find that there is a deal between the employer and the employee saying, this is how much you're going to get a week, $600. That's unusual. It happens every day. When the Department of Labor walks in and says, how many hours you've worked? Well, we've worked 60 hours. Let's just do simple math. Well, you have 20 hours of overtime. Yeah, but I'm getting $600. If you calculate it at 725, I'm making my overtime perfectly. The time and a half over the 40 hours. That's not the case. That's not how they calculate it. They take the 60 hours and the 600, they divide it, they come up with a rate, and that rate is $10 an hour. So for the overtime, they say you never paid overtime. What we're going to do is, in that 60-hour week, we're going to calculate 20 hours times 5, which is half of the 10. Multiply that times 2 years, 52 weeks every year. It's a boatload of money. Quick. So be very careful how you're defining the positions. Be very careful who you're considering overtime or not. Minors who are on summer. We've had a lot in our community that, I call it alternative babysitting. It's a bad term, but they bring the kids in and they're 14, 15, and they help around. They're there, they may clean a table now and then. Absolutely be very careful. There's a lot of regulations of kids between 14 and 16 years of age. We've had kids that are 16 cutting and helping to cut the meat. Well, he needs to learn the trade. What are you talking about? My 16-year-old is learning the trade of being a butcher, a carnicero. I need to show him what it is. Well, that operation of that saw or of that knife may be a hazardous position or a hazardous job, and those individuals that are less than 16 cannot be doing that type of work. Have to be very careful what they're being employed in. Well, we don't own a grocery store. We don't own a restaurant. We don't own a butcher shop. Irrespective of that, if you have employees, really take the time, aside from the tax issues, aside from the many immigration concerns that exist, and really look at your position. One other issue that I also tell my clients, what kind of grievance procedure do you have with your employees? Do these guys necessarily have to pick up the phone and call the Department of Labor for them to come? Sometimes they don't. There is no grievance. But most of the times there is a complaint of some sort. How are you listening to your employees? In what way do you have a mechanism for them to voice whatever concern they may have? They may be telling you that they're overworked. Why is that? Are you calculating that? Are you evaluating how much hours they're putting in and what you're paying them? Can you make a deal with the employee to circumvent Fair Labor Standard Act? Absolutely not. It's not like you're going to sit down with them and say, no, it's going to be 600 and I don't care how many hours you work and I don't care who comes in, that's what I'm going to pay you. That's not going to work. There's also another element. Dealing as an attorney, Chuck, another attorney here as well. there is a growing industry or a growing practice on FLSA violations. Pick up the Mundo Hispánico, and you will see ads. And I don't have anything against that. It's just that's another area of practice. And if you're a small business, you're going to have attorneys that are very willing to take that case. Why? Goico, why would an attorney take a case of a guy who works at a restaurant and maybe is a waiter and is maybe making or not making his overtime or even not even minimum wage? Because if I can prove 1 hour, let's take it a step back. If that restaurant chain is making $500,000 gross, and I can prove 1 hour of overtime that is owed, every single penny of my attorney's fees are included. That's a huge incentive. Not only that, this is what I'm looking. I'm coming in as a plaintiff's attorney, and I'm saying, and the Department of Labor does this. Let me know who your officers are. Well, I have one, Pedro Luis Gonzalo. I thought Gonzalo owns 3 other restaurants. Yeah, but they're not the Goico Restaurant Mexican Inc. They are the Garcia Taqueria. I don't care. If I can make an argument, and some of the attorneys will recognize it as the type of enterprise argument, that this is all one group, then I'm in the gravy. Because I'm looking not only at this particular individual, but I'm doing a class action and including all similarly situated employees. Now, if I'm looking at 2 to 3 years plus attorney's fees and they haven't paid overtime, I'm putting my kids through private school.